We ready? Good afternoon, everyone. We'd like to welcome you to the Washington County Board of Commissioners meeting, and thank you for being here. As we start our meeting, we are honored or blessed to have Ralph Atkins from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints representing our Interfaith Council. Will be giving our invocation. After our invocation, our Pledge of Allegiance will be led by Under Sheriff James Stanley, and we want to thank both of you for participating today. So.
Our dear Heavenly Father, as we gather together this day to discuss various items of business, we gather as members of this great community of Washington County, and we appreciate very much the service that is given not only by the commissioners but by their staff and all those that work in this building particularly. And we pray for thy spirit of understanding and blessings to be with them and help them in the deliberations they have from time to time, that they may feel of thy blessings and thy spirit to help them and guide them in the decisions that they have to make. We are appreciative of those who elected officials as well as with the staff that gives time to this great community in this county. We are indeed, Heavenly Father, blessed to be residents of this great Washington County in the state of Utah and the United States of America. And we pray, Father, that we may conduct our lives in such a way that would be exemplary to others and would show respect to the great ancestors that settled this great land. Be with us this day, that we may have thy spirit and thy blessings to assist us in the decisions that are made. And this we pray in the name of thy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you.
If I could have everyone arise and repeat the Pledge of Allegiance with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much.
Hey, Ralph, before you leave, we met 41 years ago, and I still remember the day that you were rushing out to your car, and I said, hey, where are you going? And you said, I've got to go start an airline. So not very many people know what your involvement was early on to bring air service here, so thank you. Yep.
Yeah.
Our first item on our agenda is our consent agenda. The consent agenda is a means of expediting the consideration of routine matters. If a commissioner requests that items be removed from the consent agenda, those items are placed at the beginning of the regular agenda. Other than requests to remove items, a motion to approve the items on the consent agenda is non-debatable.
Chair, I'll read into the items on the consent agenda. Item A, consideration of auditor-approved claims for payment for September 2nd, 2020 through September 15th, 2020. Consideration, item B, consideration of regular commission meeting minutes of September 1, 2020. Item C, consideration of administrative adjustments for personal property. Item D, consideration of applications for property tax abatement. There were 12. And item E, consideration of beer tax funds fiscal year 2020 annual report. Shouldn't that be in October?
Yeah.
Never mind.
I always love the beer tax.
Chairman Iverson, I would second that motion.
We have a motion and a second on the consent agenda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. The motion passes. Now we're on to our regular agenda items. Our first item is a presentation on Constitution Week, and we're fortunate to have Valerie King here along with the other representatives of the Daughters of the American Revolution to talk to us about this proclamation.
Well, thank you very much for having us here today. This is actually a first. We have never been in this building to do what we're doing here today. So my name is Valerie King, and I am the Regent of Color Country Chapter here in St. George. And we are here to talk about Constitution Week. And I have a couple of little props here. So when we think about 4th of July, what do we think about? We think about picnics, right? And we put our flags out, and we spark up the barbecue, and then we wait for the fireworks, right? So everyone totally understands what, 4th of July is all about and why we celebrate it. Now we come to September 17th, which is just right around the corner. Now, I know all of you know what that is. I'm just curious, how many of you know what September 17th is? Yeah, so unfortunately, it doesn't conjure the same kind of celebratory reactions like 4th of July does. So, it's about the Constitution, and it's the preamble, which my group recites every time we get together. So I'm terrible about scripts, so I'm going to try and go back to mine. And it says, it is the day, for the audience, September 17th, when our Constitution was actually signed. And it went through some real fierce debates before they finally signed that document. And maybe some of you have seen movies where they're in this, what is now Independence Hall, and they were in there for 3 months under lock and key in very terrible weather conditions. They were sweating a lot. I'm sure the tempers were flying. But at some point, the Constitution was adopted. And at that time, at 4 o'clock in Philadelphia, the bells started to ring. And so this is so a very special day, September 17th. Unfortunately, a lot of people don't celebrate it. And actually, there's an entire week of celebration. And it was the Daughters of the American Revolution who actually started Constitution Week. And I don't know if a lot of people know that, but they were fearful that at some point people were going to forget what that special day meant. And so they lobbied Congress, and this was in 1955. I love that year because that's when I was born. And they petitioned the Congress, and the resolution was adopted by the United States Congress and signed into law on August 2nd, 1956 by President Dwight Eisenhower. Now, I really like President Eisenhower because he actually had Revolutionary War patriots in his background. Now, I don't know if he was a son of the American Revolution, but he definitely had patriots. And one of them, the name, is number 4 on my ancestor bars, Balzer Romberger. So I think it was really fitting that President Eisenhower was the one that signed that bill. So DAR's mission is really simple. We're an all-women's organization founded in 1890, but we believe in historic preservation, patriotism, and education. And so ladies currently all across the nation are preparing for Constitution Week. And this is so that our citizens, young and old, will observe it. We want to emphasize responsibilities as citizens to protect and defend the Constitution. We want to inform people that the Constitution is the basis for America's great heritage and, of course, the foundation of our life that we enjoy today. But we also want to encourage the study of the historical events that led to the framing. Okay, so you might be asking, what are we doing here locally for U.S. Constitution Week? Well, we have delivered 300 Constitution kits to a local elementary school. We need to get things into the hands of our young people. Proclamations have been requested and secured from many of our local mayors, and of course now the county commissioners and our state legislators. In fact, there's going to be a special presentation with the governor tomorrow with Daughters of the American Revolution. He's going to get a really fancy engraved bell. But we also have something that is another first, and it's our billboard that just went up. Thanks to a lady behind me, Sherry McGee. We have a reminder for all of those traveling I-15 north between 5 and 6, reminder of Constitution Week. But we're also participating in bells across America. And so you all have a bell in front of you. So what is Bells Across America? So remember I said at 4 p.m. on September 17th, 233 years ago, all the bells in Philadelphia rang to celebrate the signing of the Constitution, thus marking the end of all that fierce debate and getting on with business. The goal is to hear the ringing of the bells from coast to coast. And of course, 4 o'clock in Philadelphia, 2 o'clock here. And it can be any kind of a bell. I gave you a cowbell. That was the easiest to find on the internet so quickly. But it could be a dinner bell, a gong, even the bell on your phone. And so we presented this cowbell to each of you as a gift, but we also wanted to do a little practice run with you to see how well you can ring your bell. And so we'd like to videotape it. So if it's a lot of fun. So are you ready? I'm going to go on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3.
Actually sounds good. Sounds good.
Anyway, we've never done really bells across America that extensively here. And so each year we try to improve with what we're doing, trying to bring attention to Constitution Week. So we have commitment from Southern Utah Veterans Home, the Dixie High School Air Force Junior ROTC Cadets, Hurricane Valley Fire Department, and just recently, as of today, a commitment from the staff at the City of St. George. So please, everyone, on September 17th, walk outside, take your bell, and ring it like crazy, because we love the Constitution and what it represents. And that is my presentation.
Thank you so much.
Great, thank you.
Valerie, we happened to run into each other at the county fair when we were honoring the World War II veterans, and I think you have a variety of civic activities that you do in promoting patriotism, and it's so critical at this time. I don't want to date myself, but I was in high school when we celebrated the 200th anniversary of the Constitution. And so we had celebrations there as part of that. And of course, 1976 was the 200th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence. But without the Constitution, I don't think we'd be celebrating as a nation. I mean, this really was our founding document. So with that, I'd like to read the proclamation. Proclamation number 2020-15, a proclamation declaring Washington County's adoption of Constitution Week. Whereas September 17th, 2020 marks the 233rd anniversary of the drafting of the Constitution of the United States of America by the Constitutional Convention. Whereas it is fitting and proper to accord official recognition to this magnificent document and its memorable anniversary, and to the patriotic celebrations which will commence the occasion. Whereas Public Law 1915 guarantees the issuing of a proclamation each year by the President of the United States of America, designating September 17th through 23rd as Constitution Week. Whereas during this Constitution Week, as citizens of the United States of America, we do reaffirm the ideals established in 1787 by the framers of the Constitution, that is vigilantly protecting the freedoms guaranteed to us through this guardian of our liberties, and remembering that lost rights may never be regained. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the County Commissioners of Washington County, Utah, that the week of September 17th through 23rd be known, honored, and remembered as Constitution Week. And that is my motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
The motion passes, so.
Thank you.
And thank you so much. Awesome group.
Sure.
Absolutely. Do we have a good one? I wrote notes on mine.
I've got a clean copy.
Maury's got a camera.
Well, Valerie, I should say that, you mentioned the debate that raged about getting the Constitution passed in not only Philadelphia, but then in each individual state, and that process goes on today where people debate, and they want to remove this document, many of them, or change it. And in fact, some have even been so bold as to say that it's a fluid document and that can be changed. I totally oppose that concept, because if something has worked all these years, why monkey with it? It's been amended. We accept that, and over the history, that's the way to move with the times, so to speak, but not do away with the foundation. So thank you for promoting this.
Thank you
Great.
very much.
There's never been a year like this one to remember our Constitution, so thank you. Very, very good, thank you. Item number 3 on our agenda is presentation of insurance RFP report. Jonathan Little. We all decided not to wear jackets today, and Jonathan put a jacket on.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. We convened an RFP for our insurance services at the county. This was something that has been a few years since it's been done last. What you have in front of you is some confidential information that is industry sensitive, and we were requested under GRAMA by the submitters to not share that information publicly, which is why you have this paper in front of you. We had, as part of that process, 11 people who submitted proposals to the county, of which the selection committee, which was made up of representatives from county administration, HR, the attorney's office, and the clerk's office, we chose 4 finalists. Those 4 finalists were invited in to present to the county. They were NFP, GBS, PEHP, and Albion Benefits, which is our current provider. All 4 of those were very competent. They submitted very excellent proposals, and the committee agreed that if we had to, we could have gone with any one of them and been very happy with the outcome. In the end, one of the things that came to light, which you'll have the figures down in front of you, and I'll just reference those for your purposes, or for the purpose of this presentation, our current provider gave us a guarantee of their current rate, which is listed there on the paper, for the next 10 years. That is the most competitive rate that we saw of all of the entities that were presenting, as well as additional prescription rebates, which you'll see noted below there. We were already getting prescription rebates that were fairly substantial, and as part of this process, our current provider, which is Magellan Prescriptions, agreed to additional rebates. The combination of what we were getting and what we're guaranteed this next year not only moved Albion from a very competitive stance amongst the other three to the best financial case for the county. In addition to that, they have partnered with a national firm called Gallagher, which expanded their ability to provide additional resources to the county and expand our bargaining position within the insurance market. As such, the committee felt very strongly that we should recommend to the commissioners that we just continue on with our current provider, given the fact that we are going to be receiving some additional benefits. There is no contract to approve at this time, which is why this is an information-only proposal.
Very good.
Jonathan, thank you for your work in doing this. Maybe you could take just a second and explain that this isn't really, this is a service that is being provided to the county, but the county is self-insured. They administer
Yes.
the program. They're a third-party administrator.
Yes, so for any public that is interested in knowing, the county, you have what is called fully insured and self-insured. Fully insured is what most people in the marketplace are used to. They pay for insurance. It's a regular insurance carrier, and there are premiums that just usually come as an increase as the cost of medical services increase year by year. The county opted a number of years ago to become self-insured, which means we bear the burden of all of our claims, and those are run through a third-party administrator. We have a number sufficient enough to sustain a self-insured pool where collectively we're able to cover the expenses of medical care for our employees. This has had a number of benefits, one of which has been that we've been able to maintain our insurance costs at a very low rate, where insurance is going up at an average of about 10% per year. We went 4 years without any increase. And as the commissioners well know, there are even times where you've been able to give the employees a payment holiday. So as part of the management of that, from time to time, we try to go out and make sure that what we're getting is the most cost-effective solution for the county.
And then how do we protect the county from a massive claim that we might incur?
We have what is called, it's a type of gap insurance. Basically, if we go over a set amount, it kicks in, and the county is protected against catastrophic events. And we've had a couple of times that particular insured individuals from the county have had life events that have taken them into that situation, severe health conditions that have necessitated some very specialized surgeries. There was one year that we had a few accidents that happened all at once, and so we do protect ourselves from those catastrophic losses by carrying that insurance. But we maintain a high enough level that it doesn't kick in until it's a fairly substantial amount. We're comfortable with that current level, so that we keep our premiums on that insurance at a relatively low rate, while still knowing that we're not going to go above a certain level.
Thank you, and thank all of your committee that helped with this. I know that Kim and probably Nicole and put a lot of time in on it.
Yes, they did.
And Natalie.
We couldn't have done it without everyone's participation. It was a fairly lengthy process, so I'm very appreciative to the entire committe.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jonathan. And with that, we'll move on to item 4, which is consideration of our purchase request. Ray Boyer is here to walk us through those.
I know it's the highlight of your day.
It is, it really is.
Okay, the first one I have here is for our Council on Aging. It's for a new Meals on Wheels vehicle. The truck itself is $25,420. And then with the extras needed for the hot, cold bed and everything to go with it, we're looking at a total of $47,185. The next one I have is for tourism. It's for the influencer program on an Instagram platform. This is part of our internet marketing, and it's a total of $75,000. The next one we have is for elections. This is for virus shields, the sneeze guards. And then this is for $10,150.14. This will actually be reimbursed by state elections CARES funds.
Very good. And this is for the voting centers that'll be set up around the county,
Yeah.
correct?
Yeah, all voting centers are gonna be at the Dixie Center this year.
Okay.
It was the only way we could
Accommodate.
social distance.
Oh, very good.
enough. So everybody will be set up there and these will all be there. The next couple I have is for the roads department. This first one here is for additional unexpected shipping costs that were needed. And that's for oil and the transportation for it. And that's for $17,937.29. The second one here is for the restriping of Old Highway 91 after chipping. This is a total of $35,350. The next one is for the sheriff's office. This is for a new computer server, storage server that they need before the old one breaks. It's getting there. And it's for $15,095. Next one I have is also for the sheriff's office. This is a blanket purchase order for kitchen purchases for $30,000. And the next one is also a blanket purchase order from a different vendor for kitchen purchases for $20,000. And unless there's any questions,
Very
all I
good.
have.
I don't have any questions. Mr. Chairman, I'd make a motion that we approve the purchase requisitions as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. The motion passes. Thank you, Ray. Appreciate that. Our next item is emergency service report. Under Sheriff James Stanley, good to see you here.
Likewise. So let me just start with, this is a report from August 18th through September 15th. Quite a busy period. It brings us up to 123 rescues for the year. At that pace, we'd finish roughly 164, somewhere in there for the year, which would be a new record, which we're not looking to break, but nevertheless.
We seem to have new records every year.
Yeah, well, COVID didn't slow us down at all. Let's just say that.
I think it accelerated it.
I think it did too, absolutely. So I added a new category on the search and rescue report for my own interest, and I think it's probably beneficial for the commission as well. We started to look at not only what are we providing to the residents of Washington County, but what are we providing to the residents outside of Washington County? Because we do provide search and rescue services for everybody. And on this report, I haven't gone back through the historical record yet. We have 12 of the victims were in county and 12 of the victims were out of county. So about 50% of our searches are for people who don't actually live in Washington County. And I thought that was an interesting stat that we probably should know as a sheriff's office when we perform these searches, who we're dealing with. So I won't bore you with all the details of every search, but I'll highlight a few of them for you. On 8/18, we had a couple lost hikers at Gardner Peak. That one was interesting because they got stuck for the night. They weren't prepared for the night and had to start a fire. And then thought they put the fire out, and of course, later we had to go put the fire out, and that took a couple days to actually do that. But we did get them off the mountain safely, and they were cold. But the fire was the interesting thing about that
Well, they
search.
shouldn't have been cold if they started the whole forest on fire.
Well, they didn't know that they did. They
Okay.
thought they put it out appropriately, but it sparked back up. On 8/18, we had a couple overdue Hunters and Enterprise Reservoir. We spent 20 hours on that search. On 8/19, we had a lost hiker on Scout Trail, 10.5 hours on that search. On 8/21, a lost ill hiker in Lease Pass, that's in the Kolob Canyon area. We spent 8 hours on that. And then, interestingly enough, on 8/23, that was the day of the rainstorm, if you remember, we had an ill hiker in the lava tubes, and this was before the rain. And then once the rain started, we did a bunch of work at the St. George Care Center, dealing with some of the flooding that was going on there. And then we also had a couple stranded boats and kayakers on Gunlock that we had to get out of a pickle in there. Of course, you can imagine it was going over the dam at that point. There was a lot of water at once. So that was a very interesting day. That's a triple header there, and that's something we like to avoid if we can, because it's really splits the resources out into so many different areas it's hard to manage. On 8/24, we had another injured hiker. That one was, or injured climber, excuse me. That was 27 man-hours. That was in St. George. That was actually, we were helping assist St. George in that one. 8/24, we had a lost hiker in Babylon Arch, 18 hours on that. On 8/24, we had a suicidal response to Warner Valley, and we actually found this female in Warner Valley and got her to the hospital. Potential overdose situation that I think was averted. So that's always a nice win. On 8/27, we had a missing person in St. George. We spent 64 hours on that. That was actually started, this one's very interesting because it started out as a police chase in Ivins, which they discontinued. However, the couple that was being chased decided it might be a good idea to ditch the car and then hike through the Virgin River Gorge. They got separated. She made it out, and he didn't. And we had to go in later and find the body. And, of course, there was some drug use involved in that event. That's why it kind of ended up so differently. But it took us a couple days to even find the person we were looking for. On 8/27, we had an injured UTV driver on Sand Mountain. We spent 7 hours on that one. That one's pretty typical for us. On 9/5, a couple of lost hikers in Anasazi Trail, 15 hours on that. 9/5, an ATV accident west of Enterprise. That was 12 hours. On 9/6, a couple lost hikers in Red Mountain, 14 hours on that. On 9/7, we had a UTV accident in Sand Mountain, 13.5 hours on that one. And on 9/14, another lost hiker on Scout Trail in Snow Canyon. So you can see some of these places come up kind of perpetually on the report again and again, that people like to visit and find themselves in trouble once they do. Any questions?
No, I'd make a comment. We owe a tremendous amount of gratitude to our search and rescue volunteers and sheriff's deputies that also respond with them. But what an amazing resource they are for the county, and we're very, very appreciative of all that they give us.
I agree. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. It is interesting how each month with the reports, you hear the same locations a lot of times come up. Somebody's.
Well, and you also have people that care about the environment, and the things they do is they take the cairns and trail markers away.
Yeah.
And so they destroy the very thing that helps guide people to the right place, and indeed actually put them at risk. So that happens up on Red Mountain all the time, and they kick over the cairns on trails all the way up into Iron County, and people get lost.
That's true. Thank you very much. Item number 6 is consideration of resolution Ardash 2020-2648, a resolution approving tourism advisory board recommendations. Commissioner Dean Cox.
And we've got Brittany here that could summarize that, and I'll speak to it.
Brittany, it is good to see you.
Nice to see you as well. Thank you. So we just completed our fall funding cycle for the Tourism Advisory Board, and we received 4 nonprofit applications, which is what we'll be talking about today. So we had 1 sponsorship application, 1 event application, and 2 marketing projects. So the sponsorship was for the Winter 4x4 Jamboree in January. And the recommendation from the Tourism Advisory Board was to fund $12,000 in marketing support. The event is the Art and Studio Tour by Arts to Zion. They feature about 60 artists and 30 studios throughout Washington County from Springdale to Kayenta. And the recommendation from the board was $9,000 in marketing support. And then the two marketing projects were for the Hurricane Valley Visitor Guide printing and distribution. They're increasing their print run from 10,000 to 15,000 copies and adding some information about trail systems in Hurricane. And then the distribution of the Arts to Zion brochure, which kind of evolved into actually the printing and distribution of the Arts to Zion brochure because it does need a update. So the board recommended up to $8,800 for printing and distribution of that brochure.
Very good.
I'd just like to comment, Mr. Chair, that I attended this meeting and it was really awesome. I enjoyed the give and take and the for and against and how they all forged and came together on this recommendation, and it was a healthy discussion. And I see Bobby Wankier here. She's one of the spark plugs on this Arts to Zion. But anyway, I think this is a superb recommendation, and I really would like to express my appreciation to the Tourism Tax Advisory Board for the professional way that they handled this.
I just echo that. I mean, we have some great boards, this one being one of them, of just these just great citizens that come out and participate, and they bring a lot to the process. They
That's
make
right.
it a good process.
So I would move that we approve Resolution Ardash 2020-2648.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, the motion passes. Thank you very much. Item 7 is consideration of Resolution R-2020-2649, a resolution approving an agricultural lease agreement to restore agriculture at the Confluence Park, and I'll speak to this one. So we've spoken several times about Confluence Park and what is going on down there. We recently so this property is the property that is between Laverton, Hurricane, and Tokerville. It's an area that's been farmed as long as people have lived in the area. In fact, there's historical documentation that when Father Dominguez and Escalante came through the area, that they found it actively being farmed at that time. Sometime in the early 90s, it was purchased with conservation money and set aside. At that time, there had been a massive flood the year or two before that had washed out a diversion dam on the Laverton Creek, and there was not water to farm the approximately 30 acres that are down in that area. And so there was also an agreement to allow that water to continue to free flow in the Laverton Creek. And so we've been working over the last couple of years to get water down there from the Laverton Bench Canal Company, and also to get the fields ready to farm. And we recently did both of those things. But we don't have a farming department in Washington County, and so we needed to find us a couple farmers that would be willing to farm, and so we put this out for an RFP. Both Todd and Cameron were involved in that, and what we have before us here is that agreement to basically partner with the farmer to plant and cultivate these acres, and also to maintain it kind of in its historical look as a piece of agriculture. And as somebody who grew up in the area and who has seen it in its farming glory, so to speak, I can tell you that as beautiful as the park is today, and it is pretty if you walk down through there, once you get those fields greened up and you get pasture back in there, you'll be very impressed with how idyllic and beautiful it is. So that with that, if there's no comment, I'd like to make a motion that we adopt resolution R-2020-2649, a resolution approving an agricultural lease agreement to restore agriculture to the Confluence Park.
Second.
Been moved and seconded, but I want to comment on
Please.
the great leadership you've
Thank you.
demonstrated in getting this through, Chairman.
I appreciate that. it does take time to get things through a government process, but anyway, I think we've done this in a very transparent way that we have great staff that have worked with us. So, with that, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
The motion passes. So item 8 is consideration of resolution R-2020-2650, a resolution authorizing the filing of cross appeals for 2020 centrally assessed properties. Commissioner Almquist?
You know, there's lots of times that we have entities that cross boundaries and that the county has to deal with their ownership, but it's a broad-based ownership of lands throughout the state or even our region. And it's put a burden upon our assessor to kind of analyze, and some of those entities can also come back at us and say, you're charging us too much. Or when you look at the whole state, you know, we're paying more than our share. So what we've accomplished here in resolution 2020-2650 is just how that appeal should be filed, that we are directing our team to look into the best way to resolve it. And therefore, you'll see in the three therefores that cross appeals should be filed by legal counsel, and that the county commission direct the cross appeals under the advice of legal counsel, and that finally, that is, event appeal by an owner not identified above as covered, legal counsel can authorize that filing as well. So, based upon that, I move that we pass this resolution authorizing the filing of cross appeal for 2020 centrally assessed properties. Again, that's resolution R 2020-2650.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. The motion passes. Item 8 is consideration of resolution R-2020-2651, a resolution approving an interlocal cooperative agreement for human resource services provided by Washington County on behalf of Washington County Special Service District Number 1, which is the Washington County Solid Waste District. And so often we have great people that work at the county. We have a great HR department. We have a great legal county attorney's office. And often we find ourselves helping our special service districts that really it's about scale. It doesn't make sense for them to have HR, but yet they need HR. And so this agreement is basically an agreement between us and the county and the special service district for our HR department to be available to them to provide needed HR advice and guiding them. So something we've been doing for nothing, and now we'll ask them to contribute a little.
You know, this is really a good thing, though, because it's so often you get economies of scale when you have projects that have similar type of work and pool together and not have to have separate HR departments all over. And so
It's also a little more difficult when you have perhaps 15 employees. One of them is the HR director. You intermingle with each other often in office situations, and sometimes easier to have a off-site HR deal with smaller entities.
You know, there's been several occasions since I've been a county commissioner that we've helped out with different 5 county organizations or special service districts, and they really appreciate what the county can bring and how it can help. So I always
Chairman,
get compliments back.
With your discussion and recommendation, I would move that we approve Resolution R 2020-2651.
Very good. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, the motion passes. Item 10 is consideration of resolution R-2020-2652, a resolution approving Council of Government COG recommendations. Commissioner Cox?
I would be happy to speak to that. When vehicles are registered, a small portion of that fee is set aside for corridor acquisition and road improvements that are needed, and we have set that up so there are 2 types of funds. One's a revolving loan and one's a grant fund. And so Resolution R 2020-2652 would transfer $600,000 from the Construction Revolving Loan Fund to the Construction Grant Fund. And the City of St. George is also has requested, and it has been tentatively approved by the COG pending approval by this body, for $486,000 for Riverside Drive to 1450 South from the Construction Grant Fund. And the city would pay any of the administrative incentives that are tied with that approval. And also an approval to the City of St. George requesting a fund of up to $79,000 from the Corridor Preservation Fund for Commerce Drive, pending getting all of their application in and the appraisals that are necessary. And finally, Hurricane City is asking for funding of up to $95,000 for 2300 South from the Preservation Fund. And so I would move that we approve these recommendations from the COG as specified by Resolution R 2020-2652.
I'll second that, and if anyone doesn't know where Commerce Drive is, they've fought for years to get that east-west connection to resolve some of the Little Valley transportation needs, as well as gain better access to River Road clear to the southern corridor. And I mean, I've known for 6 years how they've tried to debate that. And these funds, small amount compared to what it costs to build a road, will help facilitate that. So of all of those, they're all important, but number 3 will especially open up a tremendous east-west corridor for those living in the Little Valley area.
Thank you.
Very good. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, the motion passes. Item 11, consideration of resolution R-2020-2653, a resolution approving a feasibility study regarding emergency services. Commissioner Cox?
I'd be happy to speak to this. You know, the county and different service districts continually ask themselves, is there anything that we can do better? Can we look and evaluate? And we've had a chance to meet with our emergency services department and forestry, fire, and state lands people following that. Been really quite a rough fire season this year. And that question was posed to us, is there anything we can do better? And I think they had a superb idea that we at least do a feasibility study with Zion Bank to find out what economic impacts might be of bringing some of these west side special service districts and consolidating them in much the same manner that we've done on the east side of the county. And so no decision has been made at all on that. This is just a contract that, if we sign it, would empower Zion Bank and their public finance department to do a research and study and come back and report to us what the financial implications of that would look like. And so I would recommend passage of Resolution R 2020-2653, and also thank our emergency services and fire people for the tremendous amount of effort they've put into this high fire season.
Absolutely.
Second.
We have a motion and a second, and I'd just say that, just to echo what you said, good decisions are driven by good information. And so it's just a matter of engaging with Zion Public Finance to get the best information possible to drive future decisions, or just to know what options might be. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. The motion passes. Item 12, consideration of resolution R-2020-2654, a resolution approving a lease amendment between the Bureau of Indian Affairs and Washington County for space in the Office Plaza building. Our County Administrator, Nicole Felshaw.
Thank you, Chair. So as you are aware, but just to reiterate to everyone else that might not be, is that county owns the Office Plaza building just up the street from us, and we have been renting that and have had a long-term lease with the Bureau of Indian Affairs, and their initial lease was up June of this year. They actually are going to eventually be moving into the federal building across the street from us, But they've, I guess through COVID, have been struggling to complete the tasks on their side to be able to move in. So they came to us a few months ago that before the end of June and asked for a 3-month extension, which we were happy to give them. They've now contacted us again and said that they're just a little bit more delayed. So this is a recommendation to you today to extend their lease through November 15th of this year. That gives them an additional month and a half where it's getting federal building. So
Very good. Well, thank you.
I move that we pass that resolution to extend that rental agreement, which is 2020-2654.
I second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, the motion passes. Item 13 is consideration of resolution Ardash 2020-2655, a resolution approving an agreement to purchase used concrete Jersey barriers. And Todd Edwards, I thought I saw him in here.
Yeah, he's here.
Oh, very good. I'm pretty excited about this item because we get to save some money, I think, from our original thought. Yeah.
Yeah, we wanted to put some concrete barriers up in some really nasty areas up on Kolob Terrace Road. And so we went out to bid for that and came back with a low bid of about $291,000. Since that time, we found out that a project that UDOT's doing along I-15 is removing some barriers. They didn't really have a good use for them, and so we looked into acquiring those, and we got a bid from them for about the same amount of barrier for $47,000 and change. So we're hoping that we can cancel the previous contract. That may take a little bit of work to cancel that one, but we would like to approve this one. It would save us about
It's not every-
$250,000. hopefully.
Not every day that we get to save that much money for
Yeah.
the same product, so thank you, Todd, for hunting that down and working with UDOT, and
It worked out
hopefully,
well timing-wise, so that's good.
I'll look forward to getting those Jersey barriers on, not just for my own safety, but for my neighbors and friends who constantly ask me, hey, when is the county going to do something about that road?
It is a narrow road and a long way to fall, so.
Of course, Commissioner Cox would know better than most as he
It's
drives back
one
and
you don't
forth.
want to fall asleep on.
No, you don't.
yeah, it's very, very much needed, so I'll move that we approve Resolution R 2020-2655, approving an agreement to purchase used concrete Jersey barriers.
And I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, the motion passes. Item 14 is our commissioner's report.
Could we hear from Chief Coolman?
Very good. Chief, would you mind telling us when fire restrictions, when are we going to get more rain and... Oh, we're not, okay.
I wish I knew those answers. That's why we elected you, commissioners. If you tell us when there's more rain, we'll be glad to plan accordingly, but the area remains extremely dry and brittle. We have crews from throughout the county fighting fires throughout the state of Utah. Help me out, I'm California. We just got back from Colorado. They're in Oregon, and this morning groups went to Idaho.
Oh, my goodness.
Not just southern Utah that's dry. It's dry throughout the Intermountain West and millions of acres that have been burned. Maybe a word of note would be that normally we open for the burn season today. Fire chiefs in the metropolitan area have consulted with one another and figure that's not a wise thing to do. So we're going to petition to have that open up later in the year so we can do it when it's a more safe environment. Hopefully after some rain.
But Chief, how does fire someplace else impact a department like the county's Hurricane Valley District?
Our department actually employs a seasonal and a full-time cadre of wildland firefighters that fight fires in the county as well as deploy to other areas. We started that model first by request. We have fires here on occasion. People come from all over the Mountain West to help fight those fires. The other thing we do is when we go and assist, for example, in Oregon right now, they're on an EMAC or an emergency compact. The other states, we have others that go out list of available resources are reimbursed for their time. One of the reasons we engage that is it saves us from going back to our taxpayers, generate a profit of almost $500,000 a year by fighting fires in other locations. We're able to hire employees, pay their salaries, do the wear and tear on equipment, and then save our local tax. the money, and then when we don't have a fire season to deploy, we have extra firefighters locally. And other departments use that same model.
Conceivably, if we had a huge fire here, we could draw resources from other areas.
We could. Yeah, we all participate in that same type of a sequence, so when there's a large fire, they ask for help, and people come from all over the United States. So I think we have had Florida crews, haven't we, Adam? So we've had them as far as Florida.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
It's crazy.
That out of a season. So just ask people, continue to be careful. If you have to do any hot work, please consult your local fire department. If you want to go camping and hunting and you really think you need to have a fire, as mentioned earlier in this meeting, please don't.
Yeah.
Even when you think it's out,
Yeah.
we don't need more work. We have plenty of work. Firefighters of the county are very tired, working all season long.
Last,
We've been shown in northern Utah that includes target shooting,
It does.
which can be very risky, and with hunting season coming, they want to sight their guns and whatnot, and they need to go somewhere where it's already protected and not out into the wilderness.
At target shooting, driving your vehicles in areas you think are safe, just dry enough that the underside of your vehicle could start a fire, smoking outside of vehicles. We've had them start from as little as a spark. Not sharpening a tool, spark starts a fire. It's that dry. So even though something looks green, the fuel moistures are extremely low. Chance of a fire is extremely high. So just ask people to please be careful.
for the last several years, we've just missed our monsoons. I think we had a 3-hour monsoon this year, and it left a bunch of sinkholes and flooded everything out and flooded our library. That was our whole monsoon season right there in 3 hours. So crazy.
So we'll wait for your report when I'm going to get rain again. So I'll look forward to that next
Thank
commission
you.
meeting.
Thanks for all you do.
Appreciate you. Thank you very much.
Adam, thank you
Yep.
for all that you do, and Jason also. Had a busy year.
Crazy. Pardon?
You have something, I have one more
Okay.
item if you
I-
From time to time, as government entities meet, they pick a time to do that. And for a lot of years, this has been the time for a commission meeting at 4 o'clock. And of course, there's others that are announced. The Board of Equalization today, for example. And then, of course, Planning Commission meetings on 1:30. And then we've had them on Fridays and Thursdays. Whenever they are able to get that word out in time as required by law. We've also on occasion had a few people request that these meetings be held later, 5 o'clock or after, allowing somebody to come and not interfere with their work schedule. But I do want to remind everyone here and those listening in or those who will listen later that we do have opportunities to hear and observe this very meeting. We can thank our local university's TV station to be here, and I'll talk about them in a minute. But, you know, we are on Facebook. We also invite you to join us with Zoom. And those streaming opportunities give you a chance to view this live. But after hours, you can look at all these meetings via our TDS cable channels 22 and 108 HD at 10 a.m., 2 p.m., and 5:30 p.m., and available on demand as set on youtube.com under Community Education Channel. So we appreciate the broadcast that they provide from Dixie State. You know, and in addition, it's amazing to me personally that people don't really call. They hear something and they jump to a conclusion that isn't real. And for example, not too long ago, we approved 2 hand washing trailers, which are essential for all kinds of events, and that we can use those for, you know, the sanitary purposes of any sort of event. In that same meeting, it was mentioned that the health department might be from the governor's office receiving vaccinations. Somehow that got broken down to that where we knew that A plus B equaled nothing. They were separate issues. But somebody said, oh, they're buying these trailers so they can force vaccinations on us. That is so far from the truth, but that is what got reported. But under no circumstance did anyone call us to clarify. Except 2 days ago, a man called me out of the Springs area, and I applaud him. I'll reserve his name lest he be the next to be sent to the guillotine by somebody else. He wanted an explanation, and I explained it to him very clearly what was going on, that we were not mandating vaccinations, weren't mandating anything. We bought 2 trailers, and we heard that the governor might send us some vaccine, and that's it. And explained that that would go through the health department if those vaccines were received here, and that we weren't walking around. I wouldn't want Dean giving me a shot. He's had plenty recently himself. But having said that, we encourage people to engage with this meeting in the various ways that we've mentioned. We can also receive phone calls, and it's fully within their purview to talk to us in all sorts of other mediums to find out exactly what went on. And we'll continue to try and advertise as required, but even beforehand, try to talk publicly about those things. We often have the press here, and we can thank them for coming up, asking more questions after the meeting, what was actually said there, what was meant there. And we've been able, from the press that actually does come to these meetings, get a fair shake. So we can applaud them for that. It's interesting that those who do not come to these meetings or view them later often just report whatever they want to so they can have a show. Having said that, please do understand we're going to maintain this meeting at 4 o'clock. We'll do everything possible to keep the public informed on the issues that are here. It's not a public hearing. We don't take public comment on any of these items. There are chances for public hearings that we do hold when it's required. But during these meetings, unless something is specifically intended to be a public hearing, these items are for purpose of running the government of the county, spending money, making that available to the public to know where, and passing resolutions and things that help with moving these very difficult wheels along sometimes. So having said that, that's our open commission report on that topic.
Very good. I appreciate those comments. And
Yeah, I don't have anything other than on that shooting. I'd like to report that we've been spending significant money at the shooting sports park to come up with a nice, safe place
Yes.
where our residents would be able to shoot, and hopefully that won't be much longer before we'll be able to open.
yep, we're pretty excited about
Yeah,
that. And
great point.
just one last note on transparency is we do try to do manage the offices of government, the things of government in a transparent way. We're also available for people if they have an issue in regards to county government, just to reach out to us. We're more than happy to sit down
Call
and,
us,
and
make
have that
appointments.
discussion as well. So, all right, well, thank you very much. And with that, we will stand adjourned.
Thank you.
So.